Sweep for Wilson. Cutback run. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown! San Francisco! This will be a 3rd down and 3. Kivitz his side. Jimmy throws. It is caught by Deebo Samuel. Breaks a tackle. 40. Deebo 35-30. 25-20. Breaks another tackle. 15-10. 5. Touchdown!
Stafford has a knee-high snap, steps up in the pocket, hit from behind. That ball comes out, nearly intercepted. They're going to say incomplete initially. Stafford goes downfield and dies on it. Still no whistle. Now it comes. So I think you're going to say fumble until proven otherwise. And that is San Francisco football.
Treated as a fumble.
Kerry Hyder Jr. is the one to cover it.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
The Playbook is live on Bettor Sports Network. My name is Justin Fensterman. His name is Adam Ronis. And for the next couple of hours, let's sift through waiver wire action for fantasy football. Let's take a look at those Week 5 NFL spreads, talk some injuries, and then some other sports as well, as it is multi-sport madness here on the show. Going to cover some NBA and even a little MLB a little bit later on. What's going on, Roman?
Pretty good. Most part, it was a good NFL fantasy week. Do have a couple of really bad teams, which I'm just not accustomed to, but have to figure some things out here. It's been a wild 4 weeks, man. A lot of balance in the NFL. You know, we think a lot of things that we thought too were completely wrong, and a lot of surprises. That's the way it goes, but it feels like it's even more this year.
Yeah, I thought that getting Allen Robinson in the 4th, 5th round would be a very nice value pick. Different team, better quarterback he's with. Not so much. And you heard some of the highlights there from the Rams and 49ers radio networks from last night's Monday Night Football game. And when you're hoping that this guy could do something more, another pass to Kupp, another pass to Higbee, another pass to Kupp, another pass to Higbee. Where's Allen Robinson?
He doesn't get open, though, either. The times that he is getting targets, he's clearly not open. So I'm beginning to think maybe he is done, which is, you know, you don't want to say it too early, but, man, it's just not happening. And the thing is, they raved about him in training camp, and it's just not translating to games. Now, I know the Rams' offensive line is a major issue, but still, the times that we do see Robinson targeted, he's not getting open. So I already benched him this past week in some leagues. I think I have him a lot more in best ball. I got him in a Scott Fishbowl. I've been benching him there. And I do have him in a RT Sports Championship League, which sucks. I had to bench him there. So, yeah, I've been benching him. And, yeah, I understand why people want to cut him if you're in a more shallow format, because at some point you just have to realize it's a sunk cost. And if you keep him on the roster, you're going to be tempted to play him. I mean, you just can't play him now. I think I had him ranked like around 50th at wide receiver this week in my rankings of FantasyAlarm.com. I'll have my rankings for Week 5 either up tonight or tomorrow morning early. They'll be done tonight. Hopefully they'll get posted promptly, but they'll be up. No, I'm not. Why are you laughing for? I'm just saying, it depends. So I get them done Tuesday night. So hopefully someone is around to put them up immediately. If not, they'll be up very early in the morning. But I can't imagine having him high again. But yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the biggest disappointments, man. You're talking about a guy that like you said, 4th, 5th round, and like he's unplayable right now. It's really, really bad. And you know, I tend to be patient, but I don't know if it's going to turn around. Like, there's no signs that this is going to get better for Allen Robinson. So, you know, I understand why people want to cut him. I can't blame you at this point. Like, how much longer do you have to deal with this? And look at the line yesterday, 2 for 7 on 6 targets. I mean, I mean, do we just take his yard under every week at this point? I mean,
we're starting to, man. I mean, if Kupp's going to be able to escape coverage and get as many times, he's going to be logging 15 to 19 targets a good amount of weeks. That already is going to crush us when it comes to Robinson. We talked about Tyler Higbee as someone that you can't stop watching because for the most part, he's getting targeted a good amount.
Yeah, 14 yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know if there's enough room for this guy.
It's not that. It's just, he's not getting open, and Stafford's never looking for him. And the offensive line is a major problem for this team. And it's not going to get better this week because they face Dallas and their defensive line. So, you know, Stafford's been under a lot of pressure. He's not going through his reads. I mean, a lot of times he doesn't have time. There are times I think he holds the ball a little too long, especially when you know your offensive line is under siege and you're just going to not get a lot of time to throw. But I will credit the 49ers defense for winning me a matchup last night. I think I was down 9 going into the matchup, and I don't even look at defensive scoring highlights. And this one I went through and I looked, and there's points for yardage, points allowed. I was like, oh, this is going to be dicey. And they came through with a huge performance. Obviously, the pick 6 really sealed it there. But yeah, I mean, the Rams. Look, I didn't think the Rams were great coming into the year, and they're kind of worse than I thought. I mean, there's time to turn it around, but man, they didn't even have a touchdown last night. 3 field goals. They can't run the football right now. It's a disaster with the Rams. I mean, Cooper Kupp and Higbee are like the only guy. I don't even want Stafford, man. Like, I have Stafford in one league, and I didn't want him. Kind of waited on quarterback, and it was Stafford Lawrence. And I have a partner in that league, and I'm like, all week I was like, we're going to start Lawrence. Then I was like, you know what? The weather in Philly, it's a tough matchup. We haven't really seen Lawrence do it yet. Wound up going Stafford. They both suck, but I wish I would have had Lawrence. And I will start Lawrence this week over Stafford. I mean, Stafford against the Cowboys defense in that line, I don't know, man. He's been very underwhelming, and I really didn't want him. I think that's the only league I have him in. I was worried about the elbow. And, you know, he hasn't been good. I mean, he's got 2 straight touchdowns now, 2 games now in a row with no touchdowns. He had no touchdowns against Arizona. I know they didn't have the ball. Arizona had the ball the entire game. He had 25 pass attempts, but he's got 1 game of multiple touchdowns out of 4. That is crushing you at quarterbacks. And, okay, look, Buffalo game, sacked 7 times, right? Good defensive line. Atlanta, he was protected, only 1 sack. Arizona, 1 sack. San Francisco, good defensive line, 7 sacks. What's going to happen with Dallas this week? You're probably looking at 4, 5, 6 sacks. They have one of the better defensive lines. So I think it's pretty clear that Stafford is someone that you really can't count on at this point.
Can you guess? I'm going to see if it's here. I want to make sure it's here. But I was going to say, can you guess the spread on that game?
I saw it. What I saw earlier was 4.5. Rams favored.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The 43.5 total right there. He's on the ground 7 times this past week. Dallas is going to crush this guy this week. Dallas scares me, man. It's very different from what we were talking about entering week 2 of the fantasy football season. This Dallas defense, that was a statement they made against Cincinnati a few weeks ago. And since then, what they had the Commanders, how can you even think about the Commanders? No, you got to be thinking about Dallas, that good defenses will prevail. When we're doing things like betting against the spread, and I learned my lesson. I had the Bengals -6. So stupid now that I think about it. Dallas was able to completely limit them, the defending AFC champions. That's what they were able to do. Even they could have Cooper Rush in there. And this is something, Ron, I got to ask you about. If Cooper Rush could still be a, quote, game manager, maybe give Dak a few more weeks here. I mean, I think that'd be good for everyone. I mean, this Dallas team with this defense, they can end up being playoff bound.
They could be more than playoff bound, again, because it's the weakness of the NFC. That's the thing I look at. And it was why I had partial optimism for Dallas before. I'm like, well, look at the NFC. Who's good? You know, I know everyone pointed to the Rams. I didn't see it. San Francisco has been inconsistent. I think they're good. Tampa, I think they have issues. I think they're going to get better. They're getting healthy on offense. Their defense was the worst it looked this past week against Kansas City, and their division sucks. So they'll get better. And then in the North, Minnesota has flaws. Green Bay should get better, and Philly, obviously, who I thought was the best team in the East and one of the best in the NFC, has played very well. We still haven't really seen them get tested. Jacksonville's improved, but that game was in Philly, and there was some weather. I think with Dallas is we're not going to see Dak this week. They probably want him the following week because they're at Philly, and that's obviously a big game. But you can't rush him. If he's not ready, just let Cooper Rush go out there. You hope that your defense can put some pressure on Ertz, maybe cause a turnover, make something happen. And if you lose that game, it's not the worst thing in the world. Then they have the Lions and the Bears after that. So and then the bye. So I would definitely not rush them. There's no need to. You've already done well with Cooper Rush. You're 3-0 this year with Cooper Rush at quarterback. Your defense is, leading the way. They're getting just enough on offense. CeeDee Lamb is playing a lot better. Michael Gallup came back. Dalton Schultz was quiet this past week, but, you got him. So You can't rush him back at this point. And yeah, to me, the NFC is just so wide open. I thought it before the year, and it's probably even more wide open than I thought now. There's just so many teams that you don't buy. Like the Giants are 3-1. I mean, does anyone really buy the Giants right now? I don't.
You can't. You can't. I know. I was talking to my dad earlier today, and us being from the New York, New Jersey area, and he's just it's good when the Jets and the Giants win, and it's like it's just a weird spot to be in with the Giants. And I said, Dad, you can't look at the Giants and think all of a sudden they're going to be contenders. Look in their division. You watch the Eagles for about 10, 15 minutes. That team looks like it's going to the Super Bowl. You watch a team like the Buffalo Bills in the AFC. That team looks like it's going to the Super Bowl. The Giants at this point, they can barely keep their offense healthy at all. And from the offensive players that they've had, it seemed like a couple, at least Kenny Golladay didn't even want to be there. Doesn't even want to play. This whole knee injury is a farce. I'm saying it. I'm breaking some news here. No, I'm not really breaking news. But that Kenny Golladay knee injury, man, he just wants to get paid to not play at this point here. And with the Giants, they can maintain that kind of health and that stamina. And at some point, they're going to get knocked around. And all of a sudden, within one game, everyone's going to be off of the Giants. Fluke 3-1. They just played the Bears. We talked about it. The winner of that game became the worst 3-1 team of all time, and that was the Giants, not the Bears.
Yeah, and they've had 3 games in a row at home, and now they have to travel to London. I mean, look, they beat the Titans, who have played better than I thought over the last couple of weeks, but week 1, some surprises can happen. Titans missed the field goal late. Giants went for 2. Okay, good win. And they beat the Panthers. I mean, really? And they barely beat them? The Panthers are horrendous. They might be one of the worst teams to watch in the NFL right now. I just couldn't sit there. I'm watching the Arizona-Carolina game, and it made me sick. Baker Mayfield with 75 passes, batted at the line of scrimmage. DJ Moore open, and he can't get the football. That's a horrible football team they beat. And then the Bears are horrendous too. I don't care if they have 2 victories. They beat the Texans when the Texans gave it away late on a bad throw by Davis Mills to set up the winning field goal. And they had the Mud Bowl, the tornado, and the terrible field in Chicago in week 1. So, Giants are a product of their schedule. You've got to be a realistic Giants fan. You cannot think that this team is good. They have no weapons at wide receiver, and we don't even know if Daniel Jones is going to play this week. That's a line that I would, if you want to do a teaser, now's the time to tease Green Bay. I think that it was 7.5. I think it's 8 now. That's a great line to tease down because I don't see Green Bay losing the game. And, it could be Davis Webb at quarterback for the Giants this week. We know Tyrod Taylor's in concussion protocol. And even if Daniel Jones plays, he's got a bad ankle. And what's part of the strength of Daniel Jones? His mobility and what he can do on the ground. And we saw it this past week with 2 rushing touchdowns. If that is compromised and there's no weapons at wide receiver, Green Bay is going to feast.
Yeah, Jake Fromm, apparently they're trying to work him out, see if they can grab someone in relief. And they're not the only team. I mean, the Patriots too. They could be looking at Garrett Gilbert as well. I mean, they're dealing with their quarterback injuries as well. So it's funny when I'm looking at some of these totals this week, I'm not seeing a single one in the 50s as of right now. One. Monday Night Football. That's it. Raiders, Chiefs. They're at 51. Everybody else, the highest total after that, Bengals and Ravens at 48.5. I'm seeing a 49 for Eagles, Cardinals. And then I see a 47.5 for Chargers, Browns. So it's going to be very interesting to see if we can get some overs out of the deal here. But I know that everybody's been complaining about the scoring overall in the NFL. I don't know if it's just people are looking for things to complain about. I don't know if people are just obsessed with getting shootouts. I don't know if this is the fantasy audience just basically complaining. Maybe defenses have changed a little bit overall with the way coverage. No, what do you think it is?
He gets a lot of bad offensive line play, and I think people are complaining because the games are tough to watch. I mean, even you were texting me last night, 24-9, and I get it. Sometimes those games are not that bad, but, the Rams can't protect the quarterback right now.
Right after I texted you, by the way, Stafford throws that pick 6. Boom, you said over half an interception on this very show. That's why this is the playbook to victory.
Yeah, I mean, had the Stafford prop in week 1 as part of Prop Wars. It cash stayed away from it the next 2 weeks, and then it didn't put it in for Prop Wars. I don't remember if that number was out yet on Friday because it was a Monday game, but mentioned yesterday that was the play that I liked, and it did cash. There was one that was close, and it didn't happen. I was like, man. And then, of course, he threw it. But I think, it's just there's a lot of bad offenses right now that are tough to watch. I mean, Washington looked good early on, but now when they go against better opponents and their offensive line, they're tough. You've got
everyone's going to look like a offensive powerhouse when they play Detroit. That's what we
exactly. And
right
I think that was the product there. I mean, the Colts offensive line has been a problem. Matt Ryan fumbling, turning it over. The Bears don't pass the football. Giants have no weapons. The Steelers are, rough. We'll see if Kenny Pickett can turn them around. The Panthers are horrendous to watch. So I think that's the big issue is you have a lot of teams that are tough to watch and then other teams that have offensive line issues where they can't protect the quarterback. So I think that's the big issue. But, yeah, scoring definitely appears to be down. And we all know most people like watching offense, big numbers, like you said, for fantasy football and also for betting purposes because most people bet overs. They don't like betting unders. It's not fun to sit there and root. Don't catch it, don't score.
I agree with that, by the way.
And that's why, but that's why if you want to be a good bettor, you got to take unders sometimes,
right, Right. Man, I've done it more than I did originally when we first started our old show on SiriusXM. I was never betting any unders. Now I'm doing it a bit, but I'll say this, that it's more fun betting the overs, but it's not about having fun. It's about winning the bet, and that's what we're all about here on the Playbook. You can find all our work at fantasyalarm.com, including the NBA cheat sheet. It is out for you fantasy basketball players out there. For those getting ready for your drafts and auctions, it is on fantasyalarm.com, all free for all of you. Everything from top 200 player rankings to auction values, sleepers, busts, rookie coverage as well. And going to talk to Rick Kamla, host of Bettor Sports Live, right after us. He won't be hosting Bettor Sports Live tonight. Instead, it will be on call with Dr. Roto from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern once we're done here. Rick will be back tomorrow, actually, with Lisa Ann, 7 p.m. Eastern. We hosted with Lisa last week on the Playbook, and it was just so much fun. Rick and Lisa are going to do awesome together. Rick was actually just checking out the San Antonio Spurs, so it was probably a 5-minute checkout at that point because that's a complete rebuild of a team. So I'm going to ask Rick about some of the things he's learned around camps as he's covering it for different networks, and going to talk to him in general about who he thinks are going to win the championship and what teams could be contenders. Let's go over some of the stats quickly from Monday Night Football. Like we said, 24-9. I was texting with Ronas like I do with a lot of nights and just boring football that I was watching for the most part. Got a nice pop, though, once Stafford threw that pick, though, because I love it when our predictions just come through. That one in the fourth, very nice. Garoppolo had 239 in the air, the touchdown. That touchdown was to Deebo Samuel, 6 for 115 for him. Jeff Wilson scored a touchdown as well.
The other play that I mentioned was Deebo Samuel over long reception. Remember?
You did say that.
Yeah.
I forgot what the number was, though.
It was 20. Oh, do I still have it? 24.5, I believe. I don't have it. I think it was 24.5.
You've been starting to get at these longest rush, longest reception bets.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at Barkley's this week, although I got to see who was at quarterback, but it was 16 and a half.
Might be him.
Nick Chubb, too. So, yeah, those you cannot take for prop wars.
Oh, I can't. So I'm not allowed to take the
No, because come on. If I've been bringing it up and talking about it, then you clearly stole it from me, right? I mean, I think the producers would agree with me on this one. We can have a similar prop, but if it's one that I've talked about for a couple weeks,
that's
and then
fair.
you tail it,
then I'm intentionally stacking with you, and that I agree with there.
Yeah, that I don't.
I'm going to continue to ask this though. You see, the producers are all in on you. They don't like me.
No, because I speak logic. That's why.
So do
I'm logic and I speak the truth. Why would they have any
me.
allegiance? First of all, Justin, they would have no allegiance to me because they probably know you better, right? I know Jared from back in the days, but you know them better. So why would they have an allegiance to me?
Because
they would have an allegiance to you.
You don't think our producer, A.B. Adam Bernard, is praying that I don't contact him? Oh, here's Fensty to annoy me. He wants to talk about the show. Jeez, can you leave me alone?
Well, that's why I let you do it. And I talk to you about the show, so they don't look at me as the annoyance. Let them think it's you, and they'll be like, and I'll just talk to you about the show. So there you go.
Yes, by the way, I will be off tomorrow and Thursday, so they're going to have to talk to you.
No, they're going to call you still. I'm going to say,
no,
yes,
they will,
talk to Fensty.
Watch. I'm going to tell you this right now. You want to bet? I'm going to place this bet right now. I'm going to send John and Pemba and you an email with just kind of like what we've done on Wednesdays and Thursdays, how I'm betting that he will, in Pemba, at some point tomorrow, will message me asking what we do on the show on Wednesdays.
After you send that?
After I send that.
Really?
That's what I'm starting to think. I'm starting to think
we'll
that.
see.
Friendly wager.
No, I don't want to bet it because you seem confident that John is inept at times. So I don't want to bet that.
I didn't say that. You said that.
That's what you basically insinuated. I'm going to send John an email what we do, and he's going to still contact me asking me what we do.
He manages all the content. He's a very busy guy.
Okay. Like we're not busy.
Yeah, we're not busy. Please, we don't work. We work 2 hours a day. Once the show is over, we do nothing else until 5 p.m. Eastern. So with that. By the way,
I got week 5 rankings to do after this.
You do. FantasyAlarm.com. The weekly rankings will be up over the next 24 hours, constantly updated from Adam Ronis. All hours of the day, this guy is on these rankings. Even at night, sometimes ungodly hours, I see those update receipts right there. And that just shows loyalty because, hey, FantasyAlarm.com, we are a family, and a family that sticks together, wins together. Some of the other stats from Monday Night Football, Jeff Wilson ran in a 32-yard touchdown, 74 on the ground for the night, 4.1 per carry. Brandon Ayuk, 4 for 37. George Kittle, 2 receptions, 24 yards. Then we go to the other side of the ball. Matt Stafford, 254 in the air, a pick, a fumble, sacked 7 times. Cup, 14 receptions on 19 targets, a $122 in the air for him. Higbee, 10 receptions on 14 targets, 73 in the air for Tyler Higbee. Henderson, 27 on the ground, 3 receptions. Akers, 13 on the ground. And then the lowly Allen Robinson, 2 for 7 on 6 targets. And for you defensive players out there, as Ronis won because of the pick 6, the 49ers with a late pick 6, 24-9 is your final. We'll go over some of the news. I see your comments in the comment section. Hit us up. Let us know what you're going to do with Allen Robinson. You cutting bait? Who are you going to pick up off the waiver wire? Especially all of you in shallow formats. There could be some gold out there. Wondering, Roan, how many questions we may get. Drop Allen Robinson for Josh Reynolds? They're coming, Roan.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because Reynolds will depend on the status of Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark, which we're not going to know yet. But again, I understand why people are dropping Robinson. It's been 3 awful games.
Yeah, Billy Hayes actually dropped him for Nico Collins, which is someone I wrote. We're going to go over waivers for different positions in just a little bit. But I did write Nico Collins on the list. And this is someone that I drafted in a few spots, and it hasn't been the best for Nico Collins. But the one thing is with the Texans, they don't have a lot of weapons. So there are going to be some games where maybe if we need him for a week on a good matchup as a flex, he could be good. Brandon Cooks gets hurt. Boom, getting more targets, more top coverage, but still more targets there, upping his floor. So Billy Hayes dropping Allen Robinson roam for Nico Collins. Wild.
Definitely is. I mean, I did like Nico Collins going into the year as well. And I haven't started him, and it's not been great for him either.
No, it hasn't. I was hoping for a little bit more production there, coming off a good game, though, for him. Then maybe he'll start to get targeted a little bit more. And like I said, if Brandon Cooks does get hurt, he becomes that top option. Essen, what's up, Essen? Good to see you in the chat here. Is asking us what he should do when it comes to waivers. He's got Rachaad White out there, Mike Boone, and Latavius Murray. He wants to drop Greg Dortch. And I'm thinking that with this one, it's a pretty easy answer that you're going to target between these 3. You're going Mike Boone.
It's White for me. He's having an expanded role. Boone could still split with Melvin Gordon. Now, if Melvin Gordon's hurt, then it could be Boone. But it also depends on your immediate needs. But I like White long-term. We already started to see him get involved this past week. Fournette's dealt with a hamstring injury. And they already mentioned that they need to, lay off Fournette a little bit. Fournette was getting like every touch, and we didn't see that this week. I know the game script was different. They were playing from behind. But I like White, especially if you don't need anyone this week.
Let's talk stock when it comes to fantasy football every single week on fantasyalarm.com. I do these weekly stock watch video, 3 players that are trending up, 3 players that are trending down. Some of you on there on Twitter speak to me at Fedstein Sports, speak to Ronis at Adam Rodas, and to our channel, all of our Bettor fans at Bettor Network for the Bettor Sports Network. As mentioned, AB, Adam Bernard, and Jared Moore, the People's Board Op, hanging out with us. The resource, the natural resource, Adam Bernard, for giving us a lot of good resources for the beginning of this show. Driving pilot seat is Adam Bernard. I'm Justin Fensterman. He's Adam Rodas. Let's talk Stock Watch for the week. We'll continue taking your comments in the comments section. And hey, where there's a chance to win, we've got you covered. Basketball, baseball, a little bit later on before we send you to the good doctor. It's the Playbook with Fensty and Rodas, powered by FantasyAlarm.com here on Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Rodas.
Alvin Kamara, about if I had to guesstimate about an hour before game time, gets ruled out, and it lights the world on fire once everybody wakes up. That had Alvin Kamara still in their lineups. You've got West Coasters trying to get a redo or trying to get a sub in because it's unfair that they have to wake up so early to get him out of the lineup and make sure that everyone who's active and in the lineup should be. But isn't that fantasy football, man? Didn't we warn everyone about this?
Yeah, we had this exact conversation last week, which is why it was so funny when I saw all these people on Twitter complaining and asking for a retroactive move. Because this same situation happened the last time I think Saints were in London, and I went over the story. It involved Alvin Kamara. Same thing. My opponent had Kamara in the lineup, and in the halfway through the game, he asked the commissioner, hey, I don't even know where maybe he was California, somewhere on the West Coast. Oh, I woke up late. I didn't know he's out. Can I replace him? And the commissioner comes to me and says, hey, your opponent wants to replace Kamara. I'm cool with it if you are. I said, no, I'm not cool with it, man. This is just like anything in life. It's your responsibility. You knew that there are going to be games at 9:30 a.m. Eastern this year. I hate waking up early, but you just have to wake up early and do it.
What's stopping you from going back to bed? That's the big thing. What's stopping you from that? You get up, change your lives, go pee, go back to bed. It's one of those things that from now on, when you have anyone involved in London games that are the least bit questionable, including injuries that you see late in the week, let's say this happens, all of a sudden, minor tweak for someone, like you're still waking up that morning to make sure that player is playing. It's a few weeks a year in Rome. We're lucky that the NFL doesn't go completely worldwide and we have games in different countries every single week.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Dude, Jeff Wilson looked fantastic last night.
No,
did you see that?
Jeff Wilson had one great 32-yard touchdown.
Did you see the run? Did you see the run?
JL, the run was incredible. But I just want to look at the rest of this stat line to tell you why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74. That's why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74 with a 32-yard run. So really, that puts 74 minus 32. Without that one run, that's 17 for 32 yards. Or
4.1 a carry? You're complaining about 4.1 a carry?
Yeah.
Why? 4.1's not that bad.
It's jail. Without that touchdown, we're looking at a 17 for 42-yard game, which is whatever. You know what I mean? Okay, it's fine.
18 carries. You were turning your nose up at 18 carries.
I don't hate Jeff Wilson. And it's not that I won't start him. I think he's a perfectly fine start, but that's where the line ends. Anybody who thinks he's anything more than just a fine start is where I have a problem. He's just not exciting. He's not a player that's going to just completely blow up on a given week. He got the touchdown this week. You're thrilled. But next week when he doesn't get the touchdown, when he's 18 for 57 yards, you're going to be like, well, shoot, another classic Jeff week.
Bettor Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better.
The Playbook presents Stock Up.
Here's Huntley, left side, touchdown Atlanta. Wow, this drive belongs to the Duke.
Stock Down.
Higby inside of Cooper Kupp, right. Stafford going to throw out, right. Intercepted and coming back the other way. Talanoa Hufanga. Touchdown! San Francisco!
The big bad wolf.
The Playbook with Fensty and Rodas, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Talking fantasy football stock watch here. Go to fantasyalarm.com. You'll be able to catch the entire video 3 up, 3 down when it comes to players and their fantasy football production potential. But Roan was listening to our box break because we know we don't take breaks on Bettor Sports Network. The only breaks we take, box breaks. So during the box break, you were talking about how you hate it because we were talking about this yesterday with Kamara. You can't stand getting up early in the morning. But I got to ask you a question, Roan. I know how much you don't like waking up in the mornings. I know you're not a morning person, but for a little morning, let's just say pleasure, on the week, I almost said on the weekend, you work every freaking day, but for a little morning pleasure at like 8:30, will you wake up for it if you're nudged?
Prefer not to. Be like, can we wait till later when I have more energy?
Would you really say that? Would you really have the presence of mind to say that?
I might, yeah, man. I just don't have the energy in the morning. I mean, will I do it? Sure, but you want peak. If you want peak, man. Like if you want peak Adam, wait till the afternoon and especially at night. Late at night, no problem. But morning, it's not my thing, man.
It's just like, and I know that people say that, but do you really need that much stamina?
Well, I do because I bring it. So,
well, what if you're in the passenger seat and they're in the driver's seat there? Then and
doesn't happen very often.
Amazing. I'm so.
But that's different. Yeah, I'd be like, all right, fine. No, let me just lay here.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Sometimes that's fine, though, right? I mean, it's not.
It
really
should
fun.
be.
It should be. I mean, that's fine. I mean, sometimes you're laying, sometimes they're laying, sometimes you're both laying. So you know how it goes. I just had to ask you though, because I was hearing that you really don't like mornings. But
I thought maybe, not a morning person at all.
But I thought maybe for that you'd have an exception or two.
I mean, yeah, definitely that and softball. Those are the two things. That's the worst part too. Like they don't even get peak me in softball because like I'm lethargic in the morning and I don't even eat before my games. I mean, I have coffee. That's it.
Though. Yeah,
but no food, man. That's not good. That's why I love playing at night.
We always want peak Adam. That's for darn sure. Let's talk about some players who stock up right there. Josh Jacobs. Here's the thing with Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's been very good. I mean, this was a player that we all had marked, or at least most of us, including me, had marked that they were going to use a committee. And I know with McDaniels, I know that that's his reputation. But so far, it's Josh Jacobs. And then you give him, 28 carries or so, a little bit of a statement. But more importantly, when going into a tougher matchup like they are, and the Chiefs will be a tougher matchup, if they throw to him, and if they can throw to him a little bit more, I still feel like Jacobs can find success there. I mean, 4.8 yards per carry. I mean, that's a good start to the year, but they utilize him in the passing attack, the Raiders. It'll even be better.
Yeah, I think what the people who got it wrong with Jacobs, and I'm one of them, I didn't draft him, was I thought this backfield was going to be split more. That's where we saw McDaniels with New England, and that was the talk, and it's just not happened. So especially when the Raiders are in a competitive game or winning, it bodes well for Jacobs. He piles up the carry. So, yeah, right now you're feeling good if you have Jacobs because they're utilizing him in a fashion that you want.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of these rookies, big rookie wide receiver class that we're dealing with from the draft, Chris Olave being one of them. And I know that the Saints have had a decent amount of talent out, including Jameis Winston, but you're still seeing Olave own a 25% target share, 36 on the year. Makes me wonder, Roan, with all he can do, even when Michael Thomas is healthy. I know Jarvis Landry played. He was a bit banged up. But do you think Olave has proven so far in the young season that he should be able to move up the target tree, maybe not being the top target with a healthy Michael Thomas, but certainly should be fed a good amount? This guy has been very good when watching him on the field. It's almost like you see the maturity of him when he's running his routes. Very quick player, has explosiveness. And I think that this is somebody that even when everybody is healthy on this team, he'll still be able to find his way to a good amount of targets.
No doubt about it. And I had him high up in the rankings, even when I thought Michael Thomas would play. I had him higher than Thomas last week. Thomas ruled out. But yeah, Olave's looked really good. He's been impressive. Thomas, you do have to worry about injuries and age. Is he going to return this week? We don't know. But Olave, absolutely. I think probably most weeks, I think I'll be ranking him as the top Saints wide receiver, even potentially ahead of Michael Thomas.
Yeah, who has been the most impressive rookie wide receiver from what you've seen? I mean, take it not only with stats, but what you've seen on the field, because with stats, for me, it's probably London. But when just looking overall on the field and just who I'm enjoying watching, and I'm seeing that this guy's going to be a top of the line wide receiver, all things break right and no bones break along the way. Chris Olave has been the most impressive to me.
Man, there's a few. He's been one. Drake London, George Pickens, Garrett Wilson. So it's a good wide receiver class.
What about Dotson? I know he's fine. He was finding the end zone. I know he's a little bit hurt now with the hamstring, but he's looked good too. It's just his offense and the other targets there. But it does look like he's going to miss some time with this hamstring injury. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are impressive. It's a good rookie class. What about from the other side, trending down a couple of players here? Let's go with some running backs. Najee Harris, and we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and we'll continue to talk about it. Najee Harris has some very tough matchups and a very crappy offensive line, and we can't even rely on Pittsburgh to even throw to him consistently. And I'm worried. I'm just so worried about this schedule. I mean, look at him. We mentioned it yesterday. The Bills, the Buccaneers, the Dolphins, the Eagles. Could he have a worse schedule than this coming up? And yeah, we just saw him rush for over 4 yards per carry. For the season, it's 3.5 yards per carry. But that was against the Jets. These are tough matchups. And for those that have Najee Harris, like yours truly, I am lowering my expectations big time.
Yeah, I have him in one league. It's a 14-team league. I got to play him every week, and you just cross your fingers and you hope that he can find the end zone, that he somehow manages a way to catch 3-4 passes. They are using Jaylen Warren a little bit more. But, the signs were there. Like I told you, I did draft him in June in that FSGA draft, but as I started to dive deep into things, I backed off him, and I did not draft him in any other of my redraft leagues. So had I been able to do that draft over again, I would have taken Saquon Barkley. I think I had Barkley ranked 5 at running back going into the year ahead of Najee Harris. So, wish I could have that one back, but that's sometimes when you do the early draft, you're not as deep into your research, especially someone like me who's doing NBA and MLB. So I wish I could have that one back. Team is still 3-1 and solid, but we saw the signs that this could be bad for Najee Harris. He was very volume dependent last year, not explosive, not breaking off big plays.
See, I'm going to say this, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. You saw it. I didn't. I was salivating when he was moving down draft boards.
Oh, yeah. Our SiriusXM hosting. I passed on him.
And
I passed on him for Diggs, and then you took him. I was probably not going to take him in the second round either.
Yep. I took him. I didn't see it. I didn't understand it. Okay, the offensive line, I thought he was going to be able to overcome it. I thought they were going to throw to him a little bit more. And for some reason, and I have to get this out of my mind, maybe I thought back in August at one point that it was going to be Pickett starting and that Trubisky would take more shots downfield than Pickett coming in. Maybe he goes short. Maybe he's trying to adjust and is just looking for the first open option he sees. And maybe that was Najee Harris. But that was very, very stupid thinking of me, because that's what led me to drafting Najee Harris in 3 spots. And now I'm suffering from it. And I have to pray that this guy hits the end zone to make any kind of weight with production.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're in that situation, especially when you look at the running back landscape, and it's not good for a lot of people right now.
No, not at all. He's Adam Ronis. I'm Justin Fensterman. Let's leave football. Put me in a bad mood, a foul mood. Let's talk a little basketball with our buddy from Bettor Sports Network. He's normally on after us for Bettor Sports Live, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern all week. It's Rick Kamla. Give him a follow on Twitter at Rick Kamla Sports. Going to talk about some of the things he's learned during training camp as we prepare for the NBA season. We'll go over some futures as well here on the Playbook on Bettor Sports Network.
Bettor Sports Network. It's sports talk done better. The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
What about Zach Ertz, though, when Hopkins comes back, thinking about it long term? Do you think
you got to continue to play the guy. I mean, the tight end position is so bad. I mean, I think this week, I got to start ranking guys like Ertz ahead of Kyle Pitts. I mean,
wow.
What do you mean, wow? What has Kyle Pitts done to continue to rank him in the top 5?
No, you're right. It's interesting, man, that he just has not come through. And I'm wondering, I mean, he had the 1 week he did, but I'm wondering if they're going to get right at all. And I'm not saying you're wrong by any stretch. He hasn't been good.
I mean, Parker Heese, the tight end for Atlanta, played more snaps than him.
Yeah.
Pitts ran 12 routes. He's ran 6.
Just
Pitts had 4 targets. They're not throwing the football enough either. That's the problem. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure people don't have Pitts and Ertz anyway. Like, it's to the point with Pitts right now where you do have to consider another tight end over it. I'm not saying Cole Kmet, but if you have Njoku and Pitts, is it really outlandish to play Njoku over Pitts right now?
No.
If you don't have Kyle Pitts or you don't follow this stuff, you don't realize how bad he's been. And I only have Kyle Pitts in a best ball and an FFPC best ball, so it's not like whatever. And I just looked at that roster. I'm like, oh, my backup is Albert Elf. Looks like I'm in trouble. And look, it should get better for him. But the guy has 10 receptions for 150 yards, no touchdowns. Here are his game logs: 2 for 19, 2 for 19, 5 for 87, 1 for 25. I mean, this is just pathetic at this point. And people spent the 3rd round pick on it. There's probably not much you can do. You know, I think people are like, well, I drafted him, I got to use him. You don't have to, man. You really don't. If you have David Njoku, I might play him over Pitts right now. I know it sounds crazy, but we've seen 4 weeks of this garbage.
Yeah, and even a decent matchup against Tampa for him, it's the quarterback. That's the problem. It's the quarterback. We talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Drake London yesterday. Drake London is a hell of a talent. Mm-hmm. They completed 7 passes, and they won, which is the worst part. Somehow this team is 2-2.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Justin Fensterman back with you here on the Playbook on PSN. Try to get Rick Camley here. Going to talk some basketball. I'll talk some basketball with you right now. When it comes down to, I was looking at some of the odds a little bit earlier on who can win the title. We'll get back to talking some football and fantasy football with all of you. But for now, let's talk a little NBA, because we got a season coming up here, and I've got some very interesting thoughts, especially when it comes to a team like the Orlando Magic. One of the things that we saw last year in the season, and this is where I think teams need to start considering how they're using their size. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers back when they had a logjam of forwards and centers use what I called the skyline lineup. What that is Lauri Markkanen was actually at the 3, Evan Mobley at the 4, Jared Allen at the 5, and with that, big, tall lineup, hard to defend, and floor stretching ability galore. And that's what more teams should look to do. Cleveland was very successful with it. And then what happened? They all started getting hurt. And then they didn't have a consistent lineup to put out for a little while. But the Orlando Magic noticed in preseason trotting out a lineup that's similar to the Skyline lineup. Paolo Banchero. Then you have Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba there as well. I didn't think, and I'm starting to get fantasy basketball questions from all of you about whether or not, multiple questions, by the way, about Mo Bamba and whether or not you should be able to trust him and spend a couple of bucks or end of your drafts kind of capital on him. Here's the thing with Mo Bamba. I ultimately do not see him starting. I actually see him and Wendell Carter Jr. trying essentially to split the time. And when that happens, when they're splitting the time, that is going to cut into the fantasy ceilings for both of them. The thing with Wendell Carter Jr. is, can he stay healthy? He should be able to. But if they want to try and do what they did and played him a lot together last year, you have Banchero at the 3. That will be a very big-time force of a lineup. But I like Franz Wagner a lot. And they should keep him at the 3. Imagine trotting out a lineup. You got Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, a quick backcourt. Needs to improve defensively. Suggs needs to stay healthy a little bit. Story of our lives here in Orlando. Still have Jonathan Isaac waiting for him to get healthy. When it comes to this Orlando Magic team, if I were them, I'd have the big coming off the bench. When it comes to maybe a Mo Bamba or Wendell Carter Jr., probably Bamba off the bench, because Carter can do a little bit more with his game and with the ball himself. You need him to stretch a little bit. You need him to take mid-range jumpers. Then he can do so. Bamba, not so much. Bamba's more of a low block player. But when I saw that, I thought it was very interesting. Orlando's not really going anywhere this year. They need time for their pieces to mature. But I think that Paolo Banchero is going to be a certain contender for Rookie of the Year. Not a hot take or anything like that. But still, with what he brings, the explosiveness, I like to think that when I'm watching his drive, it reminds me of when Tobias Harris first came into the league, before he became jump shooting Tobias Harris when he was more of an attacker. That's what I think Banchero is going to be. That's why I'm very excited to see this Orlando Magic team fly up and down the court. Markel Fultz has been hurt once again. Shocker. He's always hurt. Let's talk about some of the odds that I saw here. And when thinking about who can win the NBA championship, I don't know about the LA Clippers. I saw them at about plus 500, plus 550 on DraftKings Sportsbook. They need everything to break right for them. They need to stay healthy. They've had a lot of trouble doing so. How many games will Kawhi Leonard play? Paul George, can he hang in there as well? Defensively, this team could be the best wing defensive combination when you have a Kawhi Leonard and Paul George there. But then you look at some of the other pieces, and there are holes on this team. If Ivica Zubac isn't going to be able to do much more than he's already done, give him 28 to 30 minutes, then what are you going to do? Marcus Morris, solid enforcer, is backup, but you can't really put him at center. That's going to be tough. They don't have the size. I can imagine how tough of a night it's going to be when they have to face a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are starting both Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns in the same front court. That's going to be a tough matchup for them. That makes me worry about them. At times, Towns on Kawhi Leonard, big-time size advantage. Kawhi Leonard will be able to take advantage, just like most wings against Towns this year, will be able to take full advantage of him offensively. Karl Anthony Towns, who I thought was going to be the premier center, the next big thing when it came to centers in the NBA when he was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves. He doesn't play defense, and he's got to learn how to play defense. Defense can be taught, but it's discipline. He can't only be thinking about how he's going to get open on the other side of the court. We saw Luka Doncic improve majorly defensively. And I think Luka's going to win the MVP this year. I'm saying it. Saw it at plus 425 on DraftKings Sportsbook. We've had two players win back-to-back MVPs in Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now it's Luka's turn. The big question is, are the Mavs going to be able to compete in the regular season enough for him to get the nod to win the award? Don't know how I feel about that, because I, at one time, felt that the best player in the league should get the award. But how do you define the best player in the league? This isn't a fantasy award. This is a reality NBA award. And so do I define the best player in the league as someone like a Russell Westbrook on a lousy team full of players that were unproven, young, and inexperienced, but he was averaging a triple-double, and they allowed him to be able to get triple-doubles? Players would be getting out of the way like this. Here you go, Russ. Grab the rebound. You just need one more triple-double. That's what we're talking about when it comes to a player who's putting up the top stats versus a player who makes a tremendous impact on their team. He's not that guy, Russell Westbrook. They gave a stat packer like Russell Westbrook the MVP years ago, and I thought it set the NBA back a long time ago. I thought it set them way back because that's all he did, and his teammates let him do that as well. Meanwhile, you've got other contending teams, players without flashy stats, but that's the thing. The NBA fan, the sports fan, they want the flash. NFTs. You want to be able to see an awesome highlight, right? An amazing highlight. We all love highlights. But at the same time, it's the grinders that should be winning the MVP. Those that are not only good on the offensive side and could do what Russell Westbrook did in crushing all the categories, rebounds, assists, along with the scoring, grab some steals, but it's the steals. That's what makes an MVP to me. Luka Doncic is that player. He was one of the best perimeter defenders of any guard last year. And I listen to all the coverage on the many networks because I'm a huge NBA nerd. You think I love fantasy football. The NBA starting up. I'm ready. I can't wait to watch all this tape and report back. I write game notes down. I'm like a coach myself because I'm so obsessed with watching professional basketball. I'm constantly watching game notes. I'm constantly hitting the pause button so that I could go back and see how certain plays are being run, who's cutting. You want to learn. And if you, by the way, have a child, let's just say, who loves sports and you want to get them even more into sports, you teach them to watch off the ball. Don't only watch these guys do an isolation like Kyrie Irving. Don't only watch what's going on the ball. I want to see who's moving around. I want to see who's more than just a bailout option. The guard drives the lane, the defense collapses, they're kicking it out to the bailout shooter who's just standing there looking up, looking at the fans, distracted. And then they look back, they get the ball, they hit the open three, high percentage three. That's what some players are there for, just to be bailout options. I want screen setters. I want players cutting to the basket. And that's where you got to be careful and to learn about who's moving on the court to try to get open off the curl. That's a player that I want, a player that I'm constantly seeing move from inside to outside, especially when the possession crosses the midcourt line. Those are the players who are moving a lot, who are trying to get open, that I want on my team. The Franz Wagners of the world. By the way, I mentioned the Mavs. The Mavs are trying to think that they're doing something smart by potentially bringing Christian Wood in off the bench. Don't do that. Don't do it. Major size advantages last year. Who else do you have that's going to help you out in that regard? Kleba, Powell, McGee. If you just want just a guy there, but you're not going to get much defensive impact from Christian Wood anyway, but at least you get a hell of a lot of offense from him and the returning Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. I know that the Mavs losing Jalen Brunson, that will hurt a little bit, but they got Spencer Dinwiddie. And that's huge for them. They've got their backup guard who can take some pressure off of Luka at times. I want to see them playing on the court together. And that's someone that you're going to watch to see if he can get enough minutes. Luka's going to get a ton of minutes. First pick in my fantasy basketball draft, Luca Doncic. My MVP this year, Luca Doncic. My world champion, Golden State Warriors. I know it's chalky, but seeing what I saw from them against Boston, I was all about the Celtics once they hit the finals. I didn't think the Warriors had a shot. I thought the Celtics had everything that the Warriors didn't have. And all of a sudden, not only the experience came through, but we saw just how good Andrew Wiggins can be. And when Andrew Wiggins is at Andrew Wiggins level like we saw in the final, it makes players like Jordan Poole almost unnecessary for this team. And someone who knows a lot about basketball, who we're going to bring on right now, who you normally hear right after us on Bettor Sports Network, Bettor Sports Live, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Not on tonight. It's our buddy, Rick Campbell. Rick, what's going on? Welcome to the Playbook. How are you? Might have just lost Rick right there. Turnover on downs. It's okay. There he is. Rick Campbell. What's going on, Rick? Where are you at right now?
I'm at San Antonio Airport, my friend. This morning, me and Antonio Daniels, actually, it's kind of crowded down here. Let me turn back over here. Trying to find a somewhat quiet place with the San Antonio Airport's pretty lame. There's really nothing to look at. But we were at the Spurs practice facility earlier today interviewing the Spurs, general manager Brian Wright. And so I'm traveling back now. I will be back on the air tomorrow night, Fensty, with Lisa Ann. For our debut of our Wednesday night gigs here on Bettor Sports Live, and I'm super psyched about it, man. But how you doing, Fensty? What's up?
I'm trying to figure out, you're talking about the Spurs. I'm trying to figure out who from the fantasy side of things we're going to be able to rely on when it comes to the Spurs, because I'll tell you this, Rick, there is no player on this team I'm more excited about than Devin Vassell. Someone who's a two-way player, can play multiple positions, and who should finally see not only some more shots, but some more time with the ball as well. I know Keldon Johnson should be slated as that top scoring option, but I'm just as excited to see what Vassell can do on this rebuilding squad.
He's a nice sleeper for sure. He's a guy that could go to a couple of threes per game, get to about 1.5 steals per game, maybe 15, 16 points. He's not a big rebound assist guy. But he is a fantasy gold guy, which is block, steals, and threes, which you have to have if you're going to win a head-to-head league. It's mandatory. If you're taking all guys like Levine and Sabonis, you are not going to win your league. They're very good players and they do a lot of stuff, but they don't provide the blocks, the steals. Levine obviously with the threes he does, but yeah, I'm Devin Vassell. Here's the worry with the Spurs, though, Fensty. Here's the worry with the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, I'm not going to give you a name, but I'll just call it a source. Very close to the Spurs. We were talking about Victor Wembanyama, okay? And he's going to be the top pick in the 2023 draft. And I believe that a lot of teams are going to get to a point, Fensty. We may have a third of the league tanking, okay, by about All-Star break, trade deadline, kind of like what Portland did last year when they shut down Simons and Nurkic and just said, we're going to try to shoot to the bottom of the standings and the top of the draft. And I think the Spurs are going to be one of those teams. So sure that if you take a Vassell, he's going to finish the year. I'm not sure if you take a Keldon, he's going to finish the year. Kind of that OKC thing. Like I will not take an Oklahoma City Thunder player. I will not do it. You can have SGA, you can have Giddey, you can have all these guys, you can have Dort, you can have all these guys because we know they're not going to finish the year. And so in a head-to-head league, when do you need your guys? You need guys on Toronto, Minnesota, New Orleans. You need guys that are going to be in go-for-it mode all the way to the end of the season to stay out of the play-in tournament. And there's going to be a lot of teams with a lot of really good players that are going to be shutting them down. And if you're in a redraft league, and obviously, Fensty, I'm not telling you, you know this, but the people listening, if you're in a redraft league, I would stay away from the bottom feeders, the Orlandos, the Indianas, the Houstons, the OKCs, the San Antonios, the Utahs. And they've got intriguing players, right? But I'm telling you, I don't trust that they're going to finish out the year. I really don't. Detroit last year, Fensty, did it the right way, okay? Orlando did as well. And so they may go this way again, they may not, but they developed all the way to the end of the season. But it's different, right? Number one in this draft versus Victor Wembanyama. Talked to a source today. He called Victor a Zion-esque, a LeBron-esque prospect. He is a generational prospect, and everybody in the NBA knows this, and a lot of teams are going to be strategizing to get him, and it's going to be a buzzkill for fantasy basketball owners for sure.
Yeah, maybe for those teams, you draft them, you get all the production you can if there are not a lot of options and competition, and then you trade them to your league mate at around that mid-season point if you can, thinking with the strategies that you're thinking. That, and you're right, man, it's some of these teams very frustrating there. Now, the Thunder, they did get hurt, and it was really the tail end when with what they had left, who they had left on their squad, that's when they decided to bench their players. But those are critical playoff weeks and head-to-head in the final weeks in Roto. Rick in preseason was just talking about this with our Bettor fans. I noticed that the Magic trotted out a lineup with Banchero at the 3, which is very intriguing because I don't know if maybe that's the direction they go. But before Cleveland started suffering their injuries, they put out a skyline-like lineup with Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen, and it worked out pretty well for them. Do you think maybe the Magic are actually considering having Banchero at the 3 with Carter and Bamba in the other spots of the front court?
You know as well as I do that there's a lot of experimentation in the preseason.
Sure.
And so I wouldn't call it likely. I would call it possible. And so how I see it is Anthony and Suggs with Wagner and Banchero and Carter.
Yep.
That seems pretty sensible to me. We do projections, starting lineups and depth charts and all that kind of stuff, and we do our best. And I think we nail it to a high degree. That's not foolproof. It's not guaranteed that what we think is going to happen, that the coaches will go out and do it. I mean, if it were up to us, Fensty, there would be no running backs by committee in the National Football League. It would be mandatory that you have a bell cow, all right? Every single team, you have to have a bell cow. Obviously, we do not have that power. Got to deal with all these committee backfields. But look, I think the bigger point here, and it's interesting, Fensty, I'm going to be at the Magic next week, October 12th. I will be at the Magic interviewing the players and coaches, general managers, all that kind of stuff. So I'll be able to plug in more to that team. But they've got optionality, man. They really do. They've got all these guys off the bench. Okiki's a nice piece. I like him. In reality, not in fantasy, right? He's not going to get the minutes to help us out in fantasy, but he's a really, really good defensive forward who can make threes, and he's a talented guy. He was a first-round pick, a mid-first-round pick, I think 16th overall. Nobody talks about him. And obviously, Fultz is going to be hurt to start the year, but I would have a hard time. They have to start Wagner. They have to start Banchero. To me, they have to start Carter, who had a terrific year last year. And to me, they need to start Suggs, the 5th overall pick, I believe. Cole Anthony, obviously, might come off the bench, but I wouldn't bring him off the bench. I love Cole Anthony. I would actually start him over Fultz if I were Orlando, when Fultz is healthy, and bring Fultz off the bench. We'll see how that goes. But it's interesting, Fensty. I'm huge on Paolo Banchero. I mean, I love him. He is stock in an NBA player, I would buy stock in Paulo Banchero and chill and stash it and watch it grow. And obviously we do dynasty leagues and that kind of thing. But you know me, early in the draft when guys are taking Banchero, I'm taking guys that can help me win right the bleep. You know what I'm saying? And so I just, he's 5 years from now, he'll be at, he'll be maybe 3 years from now, he'll be at 22 and 9 and 4 with all the goodies and stuff. That long, man. So I'm not really into the rookie market when it comes to dynasty leagues. I try to go as young as I can. You and I look at it similarly, Fensty. We want guys who are 23, 24, 26, 27.
Yep.
They're still young. They've still got a lot of room to be on our rosters for a long time, but they're not green puppies that are going to be giving us sort of these lame, incomplete stat lines. We want guys that are going to give us fat stat lines right now because we want to win right now. And it's so fascinating in these dynasty leagues. Fensty, I'm in a 30-team dynasty league draft right now. Yes, 30 teams. It's like we're in round 7, and it is a barren wasteland of talent. We still got like 7 rounds to go. It's crazy, but I love it. And it's fascinating to watch how people build their teams. Some go super young, and it's just rook. I have more of a blended approach. I try to stay as young as I can. But I'll take a Middleton at 31. I'll take a McCollum at 31. I'll take, a 32-year-old if it's the right spot. And I'm not really into taking 34, 33. That to me is a little bit too old. I like to stay 32 and younger, but that sweet spot is like 25 to 28. That's what I'm looking for.
Talking with Rick Campbell. Give him a follow on Twitter at Rick Campbell Sports, and you can generally hear him right after us here on Bettor Sports Network, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Live all week long. Tonight, though, as you clearly all see, Rick is in an airport in the Midwest, so he will not be hosting tonight. Instead, it will be on call with Dr. Roto. But then tomorrow, the debut of Rick Campbell and Lisa Ann on Bettor Sports Live. Rick, we hosted with Lisa, Adam, and I last week, and it was just so much fun. And I kept saying throughout the show that you and Lisa, that's nothing but positive vibes on that show, man. And I just can't wait to see what you guys got cooking up for Bettor Sports Live every Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. She is a walking breath of fresh air. She lifts everybody up and just makes everybody feel better about themselves. And she's so darn fun. I'm geeked that she's a part of our team here at Bettor Sports Network. I really am. And to be on with her every Wednesday night is an absolute blessing and a treat. We have a conference call tomorrow. We're going to talk about some details and stuff like that. So the show is under construction, but I know that it's going to be kick ass, and it'll be tomorrow night. And I can't wait to get home, hug my wife, kiss our baby, start prepping for the show, and we'll kick ass tomorrow night at 7:00 Eastern.
Rick, one more quick question for you. When it comes to MVP,
Ronus, what's up, Ronus?
What's up, my man?
Ronus, what's up, dude?
So I'll tell you, Ronus wants to know, as I do as well, Luka Doncic, is he your MVP pick at this point? I'm thinking that it is his time. The Mavs are going to contend enough, and he was such an excellent defender last year that he's got all the boxes checked on both sides of the ball. And as long as the Mavs can stay in top 5, top 16, he should be able to win it, at least in my opinion.
He's my.
Yep. What about you, Rowan?
MVP here.
I don't know. I kind of feel I have a good feeling about Embiid this year, man. I kind of like Philly. I didn't like them at all last year. I kind of like them this year. And you can't count on Giannis either. Everyone overlooks him, because we take him for granted.
I love Giannis. Hey, I took him in our dynasty league, Rick, 3rd overall, and I was happy as hell. I slept like a baby after that, Kamla. Rick, we'll let you get going, though. We'll let you get going there. Safe travels home, and excited once again to hear the debut Bettor Sports Live. Rick Kamla, Lisa Ann, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Rick, thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Guys, keep rocking in the 5 to 7 window, and we will talk very, very soon.
Yes, sir, indeed. Rick Kamla, again, give him a follow on Twitter at Rick Kamla Sports. Hard worker, grinder, was actually at camp. And Ronus, like we were talking about before on the show, the San Antonio Spurs in a very interesting spot here. Rick was talking about how there are going to be a decent amount of teams that are going to be tanking. But what's the point when you have a lottery? it's still, you never know. How many years has a team with 1 or 2% chance to getting the first overall pick lands the first overall pick? That's how Zion became a member of the Pelicans.
Yeah, but you're still going to see teams do it anyway because there's many teams that are really bad. And that's the one problem you have to worry about with props in fantasy is these teams shutting down players. We see Tyrese Halliburton going early in drafts because of the usage he's going to get at Indiana. But what happens if they shut him down early? So it's going to be a real problem this year when it comes to season-long fantasy, obviously, and season-long props because you're going to have a lot of potential teams just shut it down. And the Spurs are definitely in that mix. So it's going to be an interesting season in that sense.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the Rockets don't shut down because I have a theory. Let the young guys play. Let them get reps. As many reps as humanly possible.
We made a lot of money off Jalen Green last year, man. Late in the year, remember? Those 3-point props and it's every night just playing it. And he was chucking up. It was so much fun.
Bro, we're going to have to watch Jabari Smith early. This guy's a shooter. He can shoot over 40% from beyond the arc. And that's someone, and with Alperen Sengun being such a low block player, he's going to have the lane open for him. I'm really liking. At first, I was questioning whether or not the Magic made a mistake drafting Banchero, but I'm really liking both draft spots for Banchero in Orlando and Smith in Houston. And they even have Tari Eason as well. The Houston Rockets, as always, they're going to be a very fast-paced team. Mm-hmm. I don't know what we're going to see defensively, but I'll say this. I'm all about exciting basketball when the Rockets are on. That's going to be fun. You might as well get ready to shoot to the moon because it's going to be a race to 120 with that team.
Yeah, and we'll be, looking at props earlier on. There's always a few players every year that the books are wrong on. I remember a couple years ago, Jeremy Grant, when he went over to Detroit, and we just every single night just hammering his overs because the number was so low. I forgot who some of the guys were early in the year last year. It's been so long ago. I do remember Jalen Green, though, down the stretch. That was fun. But there's always a few players that the props are low. I mean, we see it in football, too, in baseball with strikeout props. There'll be some player that's unproven in a new situation where the usage goes up, and we'll be able to take advantage of the props early on, and we'll be giving them out during the show.
Yeah, you and Rick both mentioned this, and it makes me think back when thinking about a future. It seemed like the biggest lock a couple of years ago that Jeremy Grant was going to win Most Improved Player. He was the only scorer Detroit had, and then Detroit shut him down in February. Remember that?
Man.
We're sitting there like, I can't believe he's not.
That's why, and I know we'll get it. I don't like messing with the Most Improved Award because, again, I don't know what the context of it is. Like, what are we judging it on? Like, we saw Julius Randle win it, and it's like,
right.
I mean, yeah, he was improved, but so that's an award where there's no real definition of it. So I don't like messing with it.
I'm going to give you an example, Ron. Zion Williamson is currently at plus 1,600, and that's not fair.
He didn't play.
Right. It's not fair. Of course he's going to improve from nothing.
Yeah, see that I don't we can touch on those awards and talk about them throughout the season, but I usually don't bet them.
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Edwards, good luck with that, by the way, with the front court that he has. And I know that there's talk that they might put him at the 2, whatever it is. I think that he should be playing at the 3, first of all. Second of all, Anthony Edwards was solid last year, and I don't think he should be eligible. Tyrese Halliburton, you would think that he has the chance because
he was great last year.
Yeah, but because
his usage is going to go up now in Indiana. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you judge that?
Right. It has to be something combination of team impact, but mainly, you know how it is with these awards, more on the stat side weighted heavily. Right. So then I look at a player like Jalen Brunson at plus 1,600. New situation, should be a top option. You know that he's going to be running point, playing about 35 minutes per game in Tibbs' offense. I mean, maybe that's someone who proved, by the way, that he could step out of Luka Doncic's shadow and still be able to be productive without Luka in the lineup a bit last year.
Man, the more I hate this damn award. I really hate it. For real. It's just, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, because when you've got someone like Zion in there, flashy name.
Let me give you an example of last year. Wouldn't Jordan Poole qualify for that award? Wasn't he right?
Yes, but I was yes.
I'm saying for last year.
Yes,
it's always someone who is kind of a good player, but just sees a jump in statistics due to usage. Like, that's not really what I look at as most improved.
Right. The team could be at the bottom of the conference. They don't make an impact when it comes to wins and losses for that team, and they still win the award. That's great. If we're going to judge, by the way, MVP like that some years, then we have to judge all of these awards like that too, how they're impacting their team and not just what numbers they're putting up, a.k.a. the Russell Westbrook MVP effect. Because
even Grant, man, he went from like off the bench to now starting on a bad team. Of course his numbers are going up.
Yeah. Well, that team hasn't had a real power forward in 2-3 years, and now Grant is walking into a great situation in Portland. So he's Adam Rodas. I'm Justin Fensterman. We've reached our quota for now when it comes to the NBA, but we'll talk more NBA as we get even closer to the start of the season, October 18th. Let's talk fantasy football waivers. Billy Hayes predicting like you, Roan, man, Embiid for MVP. We'll have to see.
He's a homer. He's from Philly.
I wonder who Philly Mack thinks is going to win the MVP. We'll have to see maybe. But for now, let's get back to waivers. Let's talk spreads as well. Let's see if the Roan man can guess a few of them. And we'll talk about players that you should look to pick up and how much of an investment, especially in free agent acquisition budget leagues, that you should be putting in to claim these players. It is the playbook on Bettor Sports Network, powered by FantasyAlarm.com.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network. The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
I think it's hard to judge Daniel Jones. He's got no offensive line and he's got no weapons. So, he still made a couple of bad decisions this year, but it's really hard to judge him. And that's the difficult part for the Giants. They have to figure out if he's the guy. How can you make that assessment when he's throwing a Kenny Golladay who can't catch anything?
Jones in a shotgun set. Back to throw. Has time. Fastball to the right side. Golladay makes the catch, but then he fell down and he never controlled it. It's incomplete. He tried to run away from the defender, and he dropped it.
Richie James, look at this. It is bad. They really need Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney out there. And even then, that's still not enough. And I believe Daniel Jones is the most pressured quarterback in football, and it's going to be hard for him to have success.
Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media.
What can we say about 5 more passes batted at the line by Baker Mayfield? That's 12 for the season. I've never seen anything like this. Last year's leader had 17 for the entire season. Mayfield's on pace for 51, and the Panthers barely throw.
Thank you. They barely throw. They don't make no explosive plays. They can't do nothing offensively. But when you look at this team, they ran 51 plays yesterday. They had 220 total yards. They ran the ball for 40 yards. They threw the ball for 180. On the throws, it was under 5 yards a pass. They are using their short passing game as a running game, but it ain't going nowhere. There's no explosive plays from anybody. Baker Mayfield's a dog. And that was just a terrible display of football. There was a reason to boo. There's a reason to be calling for Rule's job. There's a reason to want everybody out in Carolina because that thing is pitiful.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We are hearing reports, Ray, that people felt this was so unfair and so dastardly that people are changing rules and allowing folks to remove Kamara from their starting lineup. You cannot break this rule. This is lousy, Ray, and I hate the precedent that some people are setting with this.
Later on, the commissioner said, oh, yeah, sorry, you didn't get up at 6 a.m. today. We'll allow you to make a switch. Sorry. If you're mad at something here, you don't get mad at your league, you don't get mad at the rules, you don't get mad at your commissioner, you get mad at the bloody NFL, who I have said all along, what are we doing here? Why are we trying to take over the world?
It's just bad luck, Ray. This happens a lot, doesn't it? It just doesn't happen with the likes of Alvin Kamara. You got to be awake when the actives and inactives come out.
But again, if you want to lay blame, it's the NFL. Why is the NFL playing games that the majority of the people in the United States aren't even awake for? What are they doing? Isn't it our league? North America's league, or is it Europe's league? So if you're mad at someone, you're mad at the NFL.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
And here goes Algier right side. Tyler pushing the edge. Algier 30, 25-20. 15-10 inside to the 7. Hard running by Tyler Algier. And that ball's going to be caught. Jamal Agnew spun away from a defender into the end zone. Touchdown. Jamal made something happen after the catch, and the Jags have scored.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com on Bettor Sports Network.
Some of the highlights that you just heard, Tyler Algier, running back for the Falcons, and Jamal Agnew there for the Falcons and Jaguars radio network there on the sound. Gotta love the highlights. And I don't know what I love more, Ron, the highlights or Nando DeFino's voiceovers that you hear all over Bettor Sports Network. I actually just messaged Nando, and the one that he did with Front Yard Fantasy with John Luke, Simon, and Coop. I thought that was so funny. I messaged him and I said, man, his voiceovers are just hilarious, Ron. I think I told you after day one of this show, we got to get new liners voiced and stuff like that. I've grown into the Nando DeFino voiceovers.
Yeah. The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
The only breaks we take, box breaks. I think it's awesome. That's amazing right there. And you can hear Corey Nando and friends before us all week long, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Nando DeFino, Corey Parson. I just can't get over it, man. I literally, for the first 2 days, I hated it. I couldn't stand the Nando voiceovers. I almost called Matt Deutsch and I said, I almost was like, how dare you give me this kind of production?
That's not nice.
I know it's not nice, but you know what? I know a little bit about production.
I've heard about Ronis has told me Fensty's a mean guy. Now I see it.
Well, Ronis is also a liar, a decent amount. He likes to play.
No, I've known him a long time. He's a good guy.
Yes, and he'll eat pancakes whenever you want.
Well, that I don't like. I think that's absurd. You shouldn't eat pancakes before afternoon. That's it.
Hey, man, I'm kind of on the same page as you, Nando, but I love the voiceovers now. I'm all in. So many times.
Good times.
I almost hit up AB. I was sitting there, the phone right there, and I'm like, should I text him and be a jerk about it? Not to be a jerk, but you know me. I'm very detail-oriented with everything with shows. I've been so close. And then all of a sudden I started liking them. Maybe because you started doing the voiceover impersonations of Nando doing voiceovers. And somehow, some way, Ron, I become a big fan of the Nando voiceovers.
Yeah, I mean, look, people, every time I do it, people are just like, wow, that is so good. And they get a real kick out of it. So anytime I can bring laughter to someone, I'm all for it. That's what we need more in life, you know? You know me, I'm a prankster. I like to laugh all the time. So
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Presented by FantasyGuru.com.
And he hears it from a lot of people. I'm sure it annoys him, but he's a good guy, man. I've known him a while, and one of the best people in the industry. Like I said, no, I have not heard one person say anything negative about Nando DeFino. There's been negative things about me, about you, about that guy. Not one person, not one. And it kind of annoys me, to be honest, but it's deserved.
No, when you went on with them, you started giving him I always thought that Nando was the type of person you just, no matter what happens, he'll just laugh off whatever. You can insult him and he'll still laugh it off. But you started doing the impression, and I've said this before, and he started becoming a little bit edgy, I noticed, when you were doing the impression.
I think because everyone tells him it's so good that I think maybe slightly it bothers him. As great as he is, maybe he's like, damn, man, everyone says it. And then deep down, he's like, yeah, that is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a very solid impression indeed. Happy to be with all of you here on Bettor Sports Network. And I know it's been a few weeks, but this is
by the way, just public service announcement. I do impressions if you want to hire me. I can't get everyone right, but I can try. So hit me up on Twitter at Adam Ronis.
We can't get anything for free from you, man. You charge for everything.
Dude, I'm trying to retire early, man. I want to enjoy the good life. I love to travel, man. There's so many places I need to see. So yeah. That's why I work hard and work 75 hours a day.
Right.
More than Matt Sells. But now, man, trying to enjoy early retirement and travel a little bit.
I hear you. Now, I know that you were very nice a few weeks ago to we talk collectibles on this channel as well. And so you were very nice a few weeks ago to get me the Gary Cohen bobblehead, which is a set of 3 bobbleheads that were released 3 different times. The Mets broadcasters, you can put them all together and it makes a New York Mets nice insignia in the front. let me ask you this. I had asked you before, and I thought it was very nice of me to offer to pay for shipping. Would you, if I didn't offer to pay for shipping, would you have charged me for shipping for when you send the bobblehead down to me?
No, but I actually have some bad news. I just sold it on eBay for
No, you
500.
didn't. No, you didn't. You sold yours on eBay. You don't care about that bobblehead one bit. You would.
I do. It's sitting. Wait, yeah, right there. And look, I need it for my background.
Right, you have it, but at the end of the day, you don't really care about your bobblehead of that.
I have a. You want Max Scherzer too?
No, I mean, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. But hey, man, I'll trade you Scherzer for John Franco if you want. I got a good condition, John Franco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you want Johnny Franco?
Well,
What happened?
I just
what did you do with it? Was it involved in some sexual acts?
I mean, maybe would that up the value if it was?
No, it wouldn't. You're just trying to give me a John Franco ball, the bobblehead. What is on it?
I'm sure you really
is there
like
some
John
poop on
Franco.
it?
No, nothing like that. Sorry to disappoint you, but
I'm not interested. I'm not into that stuff. I'm
No, I
freaky,
hear you.
but not that freaky.
Wait, are we talking poop or bobbleheads? I'm kind of confused now.
Poop. I don't want poop on a bobblehead. Not interested.
No, I understand that. I understand that very much. But someone you might actually want on your fantasy team, Mike Boone. But it's more of something for long term. And you mentioned this before, and that when it comes to this Thursday night game, how desperate do you have to be to try to trot out Mike Boone if you grab him for a good amount and then immediately start him? But someone, when looking at players that you could pick up, here's the problem with Tyler Algier, not the easiest schedule coming up from Atlanta. And then what happens? Cordero Patterson comes back in about 4 weeks from
Not
now.
even that. Damian Williams is eligible to return next week, and they were actually giving him the ball early on. So that's something. And Caleb Huntley has looked pretty good too. So I think I'd take Algier over Boone. Boone, again, could split with Melvin Gordon. We did see Boone with a terrible drop, and Boone has not been good in pass protection. And we know Russell Wilson's dealing with a shoulder injury. So, yeah, look, it's complex because it all depends on your scenario. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think if there's a team that I'm really desperate on. And I'm sure there is, as when I go start doing Fab tonight, I'm like, oh my God, I really have to do this. So it really comes down to your individual situation. And that's what makes, the Fab, we sit here and generalize. And that's why we ask specifically, if you have comments, put them in the chat so we can help you. But it really does depend. There are going to be people that are desperate that need someone this week. Boone might be the preferred play this week. And we got to keep an eye on Melvin Gordon too. He was already dealing with a neck issue, missed some practice last week. I mean, it's a short week here. So maybe Boone does get a bigger workload. I mean, they do have Latavius Murray, who they're bringing in as well. I thought he looked okay last week for an older running back. So, and that's why the importance of this is, if you're 1-3, if you're 0-4, your team might look bad. But remember, all the Javonte Williams managers getting hit right now, the Jonathan Taylor. So it's going to happen to everyone. And that's why you just can't give up, and you just have to keep plugging away. And sometimes you do have to take it week to week. If you're 0-4, 1-3, like I told you, I have a 1-7 team, my home league, but I looked at the points. I'm not that far out of a playoff spot. So I'm not blowing it up. I talked about potentially trading Barkley and Diggs. I'm not going to blow it up. I'm just going to, I'm still in the hunt for the points. Now, there are some situations where you're not. My friend has a team. He's 1-3. He's got, I think, the second most points in the league. He scored 162 this week. Would have beaten everyone in the league except the team he played who had 190. And his league, it's only record. Right. But his points are there. So I caught it. He's like, the team's doing good. I don't want to panic. But, we've talked about it before. You got to have points as a factor. But that's the thing, as discouraging as it could be right now. And look, I have a team that's 1-3. That's terrible in points. And, it doesn't look good. I'm going to need like a 200-point week and a 170 to get back in it. It doesn't look like it's going to happen with this team. But again, everyone else is going to get hit with injuries too. So you just can't give up. And sometimes you just got to take it week to week. And I think some people are in dire situation right now where they go, you know what? If Mike Boone gives me 10 points this week, I'll be happy.
Yeah. So in one league that it's a 10-teamer, but there are a ton of roster spots. So there is a lot more that you can look to stash. I actually had Javonte Williams. It's a keeper league, though, so I put him on IR and didn't just drop him. I have Melvin Gordon on this team, too. but I have about $93 of fab left in this league. I'm sitting there at 2-2, and I was trying to figure out how much of a bid I should put on Mike Boone. And I looked back at it after I put a bid up there first, and then I lowered it. Now I'm not sure if I lowered it to too much, thinking he's going to go for more, but I put a $30 bid on Mike Boone. You think that's a little too much of a bid to put on him? Again, I have Melvin Gordon and I have Javonte Williams. It's going to be sitting there on my IR the rest of the year.
No, that's not bad. I mean, I think you said out of 100. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
He's probably going to go for more. I mean, his career is 5.6 yards per carry.
He was the other guy in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook. You never know if he would play during your fantasy playoffs. And then Alex Madison gets hurt.
That was a good system though for running backs. We've seen Madison come in,
Right.
Denver. It's been, Javonte's looked great. Gordon's obviously that's the other thing with Gordon too, the fumbling issues, man. Like if he fumbles again this week, like do they just go, you know what, enough. I don't care if you're a veteran. That's the thing that's I think kind of holding him afloat right now. He is a veteran, and if that was a younger player, I think he'd be sent to the bench. So, yeah, I'm fine with that, especially if you need someone, this week. So,
what a lousy
watch
night.
them go to Latavius Murray more or split it 3 ways too, man.
Yeah. Or Lindsey rather, or for the Colts at least. Lindsey.
For the Colts, yeah. It's amazing, man.
What sucks, this Thursday night game is awful for us fantasy players because you got Jonathan Taylor. We don't know if he's going to play.
He's not playing, man. He is not playing.
Right.
I'd be stunned.
So you're dealing with that. You're dealing with Russell Wilson. You're dealing with now the running back health of the Broncos.
And it's an important game for, especially the Colts. The Colts are just when you they beat the Chiefs, they're back, and then they get absolutely smoked by Tennessee. That game wasn't really that competitive. The Colts are sitting there at 1-2-1. Now the division isn't great, so a loss keeps them alive unless Jacksonville starts to pull away. And Jacksonville is the best differential in that division at plus 38. Jacksonville has the second best plus minus differential in the AFC, better than the Chiefs. They're plus 38, Chiefs are plus 33. Denver, obviously, if they want to keep their division hopes alive, probably. I know it's early in the year. But it is kind of a bigger game for the Colts in a way because they're minus 28. They've looked horrendous. It's and there's a lot of question mark. I think it sounds like Russell Wilson's going to play. So, but I did my quarterback rankings already before the show today, and I have Russell Wilson outside the top 12.
Wow. Who are anyone noticeable that you moved up a few spots?
Trevor Lawrence. And you know what? I might actually I didn't do it yet, but I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be kind of high this week against the Jets. They're bad in the secondary. Look at the weapons he has. Yep. Bridgewater is going to be a guy that, for quarterback needy teams. And how do you feel good about starting Matthew Stafford this week, man? You can't.
No.
I definitely don't have him as a QB1 this week. I can tell you that.
No, I can't. It makes for all of us that thought that Matthew Stafford in the 9th, 10th round of 12-team leagues we're getting a steal of a quarterback.
No, I did it. And I'm so mad. I got to remember who was on the board, but this was a high-stakes league I did with my friend, and we went Stafford, and I didn't feel good about it. Same thing in the GST. I waited till round 13, and Stafford was there, and I went Dak, and I didn't feel good about Dak either. I was like, ugh. And then I took Dak. Next team took Stafford. It still remains to be seen about Dak because the Cowboys' offensive line has played better than I thought, even with the injuries. They did get McGovern back this past week.
We spent the last few years saying that quarterbacks take it a little bit later, like the 9th round, for instance, Lamar Jackson being the example from a few years ago. Those 10th round, 9th, 10th round quarterbacks, for the most part, I don't think have been really helpful. Trey Lance got hurt, and then you have Stafford's issues. You also had, Tom Brady, it hasn't been the easiest season for him.
I think Brady will get better, but he was also a guy that I wasn't really looking at. But I will say this, I was open more to taking an early quarterback this year, and I think it's something we'll definitely talk about in the offseason before next year. Maybe even taking that quarterback now in round 4 or 5. Because they're going later anyway. I did take Lamar Jackson in 2 leagues in round 6. Feel great about that. And I kind of wish I did it a little bit more. I mean, I took Jalen Hurts in a super flex league in round 1, but I mean, and especially when we go back and we look at some of those receivers that were drafted ahead of Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, you guys are going to absolutely vomit and be like, what was I thinking? So I think that's something you're going to start to see, especially with these rushing quarterbacks. And I know Lamar and Jalen Hurts didn't have huge games last week, but still better than what we're getting. I mean, you know, I had to stream Mariota last week. I got nothing. I mean, it cost me a win. It absolutely cost me a win. I lost by like 6. Mariota gave me like 5. And I wish I had went to the waiver wire to pick up Geno Smith. Who would have thought we would be saying that in 2022? That Geno Smith could be the answers to our quarterback issues.
Right. It's weird, man. It's weird. He's not sustaining this crap, is he? He's not.
He is playing well. This week to me is a tougher matchup against the Saints. I do think their defense is pretty good. But they are coming off a London game, which is interesting because most teams have the bye after. We have 2 teams that don't have a bye. I believe Miami did not have a bye. One of their games last year, they elected not to. I still think Geno's going to be top 20 this week when I look at some of these bad quarterbacks. I mean, that's the problem. The bottom of the barrel is really, really bad. Like again, Bridgewater is going to be top 20 this week. He has to be. I mean, there's so many bad quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, no,
it's not great. It's not great to stream anymore, man. It really isn't.
It's not. I've moved up a little bit in some of my leagues. I got Burrow in a league. I got Jalen Hurts in 2 leagues, and I was fine with that. That's normally earlier than I go. I'm normally in that 9th, 10th round area. Try to wait it out as much as possible. But here's the thing. You know what the problem is? I felt like there were some bad vibes surrounding Patrick Mahomes that the market was impacted because you had some drafts where Mahomes was going in the 4th round and then other drafts where you had him going in the 7th round. That variance right there is
I didn't see that. I don't know. I mean, this must be your nursery school league, but I didn't see any.
You know, it wasn't it was a mock draft, the Fantasy Alarm mock draft 2.0.
Mock drafts
I caught him in the 7th round.
Yeah, it's mock draft. I mean, look, Mahomes has actually been inconsistent. You know, he actually has only passed for 300 yards 1 time. That was 360 in week 1, where he had the 5 touchdowns. His next 2 games, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not good. And last week, 3 touchdowns, a pick, 249. Okay, that's good. And the rushing yards have picked up the last 2 weeks. 26 in week 3, 34 last week. So he's had 2 good games and 2 subpar games that you wouldn't be happy for where you drafted him. So, you know, he is one of the, and I think he'll also get better as he incorporates his new receivers and gets acclimated to them. But yeah, I mean, this year I was open to it. And I didn't have a set plan. I kind of go, okay, let me see how the room plays it. And again, in those drafts where Lamar Jackson round 6, okay, I think I had Lamar 2 before the year at quarterback. Definitely Josh Allen. I think I had Lamar 2. So I was very high on him. So yeah, 6th round, I'm going to take him. Then you had the other draft where the GST, where I waited till round 13. That was not the plan. I just saw how it was going. I'm like, oh, wow, people are waiting. And obviously that has turned out bad and actually could sink my season. My team is not doing well there. And quarterback play is a big reason why. Where I had Dak week 1 get hurt. I started Justin Fields week 2 and realized, all right, I got to get out of this business really quickly. And then it's been Mariota the last 2 weeks. So it's really, really hurt me because that's a league where everyone has 2 quarterbacks because there's 20 roster spots and there's no trading.
The Chiefs play on Monday night. What do you think the DraftKings boost is going to be on Monday night for Patrick Mahomes? Over 1.5 touchdowns?
What was the boost yesterday? Remember when I told you what was the boost?
I forgot what the boost was.
Cooper Kupp plus 100 to score. Did he score? No. Thank goodness I didn't fall for that trap after they got me with Josh Allen last week. I will never fall victim to that boost again, man.
All right, so I'm from the future here. I'm actually here from the future. So I know what's going to happen 6 days from now. DraftKings is going to put a boost up there for Patrick Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Nah, man. They can't do it. That's too easy, man. Against the Raiders? Come on, man. He's
2.5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, 2.5 I could see.
300.
2.5 I could see for like plus 200, plus 150. I don't think they could do 1.5. Can they really do it against this Vegas team? I mean, then again, okay, Mahomes. Yeah, because Mahomes has gone over that in 3 or 4 games, man. The one game he didn't was Indy, and you know that was just kind of a weird game where you know Indy was kind of desperate. But how does he not go over that? I mean, he's had at least 35 pass attempts in 4 straight games. They don't really run the ball. It can't be 1.5 because 1.5, I'll fall for it, man. I'll fall for it.
Already predicted.
I'll take my money.
You've got 6 days to decide on this, Ronan.
I can't believe the Josh Allen one did not hit. I guess
They're not
weather was
supposed to hit. That's
what do you mean 1.5 at +1? Josh Allen 1.5. Come on, Josh Allen should throw 2 touchdowns every week.
DraftKings put the Maloika on it, so it's
I see that. I know that. That's why I usually avoid them. I told you the one from last Thursday, which seemed like the easiest thing in the world. Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, and Jalen Waddle, each 40 yards or more. No brainer. Waddle finishes with 39. Are you kidding me? And then the Thursday game between the Chargers and the Chiefs, Herbert and Mahomes each throw 250 or more. No problem, right? Mahomes didn't get there. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, because Herbert, did Mahomes get there? No, he had 235 against.
Right.
Like, it's amazing, man.
Yeah, just like when you said, hey, I'm like, hey, dude, lock this in. Kelsey over 6.5 receptions.
Nah, that one I was leery about.
You
know, because that wasn't a boost. They didn't boost. I don't think they boosted that. But these boosts, man.
I texted you later in that game. I'm like, bro, James, your guy just body slammed Kelsey.
Yeah.
That's not a good vibe right there.
Oh, man. It's amazing how these things just don't cash. I always worry about the boost, man.
And the bookmakers always win because they are Vegas sports books. They always win. It's like they know. I thought that one of my bets that I thought was surefire hitting Josh Allen over 37.5 pass attempts, rain or not. I thought he was going over, and then of course with 36. So you gotta love prop betting right there. Essen's asking us about what to do regarding the Jonathan Taylor situation if Taylor does not play. Roan, how does Nyheim Hines? I guess benefit somewhat because for him, more of the pass catcher. We mentioned other options that they have, like a Phillip Lindsay. What happens with Hines? Does he become a little bit more appealing to play if Taylor doesn't go Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a guy that's getting 20 carries, but he could get 8 to 12 and catch passes. So, yeah, it definitely boosts him. If you do have Jonathan Taylor, I suggest crying for a little bit. That will help. Actually, the only league I have Jonathan Taylor in is the Razzball. My goodness, that team has turned into an absolute disaster. Kamara, Taylor, I had Evans suspended. I think I have Allen Robinson in that league. Thank goodness that is not an important league. No disrespect to my people over there. I love the people at Razzball, but if I'm going to have a bad team, let it be one with no money on the line. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. At least it looks like Taylor is not going to be out long. I guess there's a chance he plays in week 6. But again, it's hard to trust these teams. Oh, yeah, we'll see. It's day-to-day right now. He'll get treatment, see if he can play. On a short week. Come on.
Yeah. Day-to-day to me, I guess because we're such NBA guys, day-to-day is like a nothing kind of
means
thing.
Nothing. They're just saying that, and you just have to – read between the lines. And,
David Montgomery was day-to-day. I thought he would.
I mean, come on. I mean, I heard Herbert in the rankings all week. I never put Montgomery in. And there's going to be times, and that's the tough part about doing rankings on a Tuesday is that I have to guess. I put Hoyer and Winston in there for now. And then once something happens, I'll remove them. I don't think that should affect many people outside of a super flex league. And you pretty much know what to do anyway. But yeah, Tuesday is always tough. I will not have Jonathan Taylor in the rankings when I do my running backs. So, because I don't expect him to play. And obviously if he does.
I'm looking at your headphones, by the way. And I don't know how you have them angled like that.
Well, because,
like tied together, like ponytail.
No, I don't know what's going on. But it's because I'm a Mets fan. I'm trying to hang myself.
Not funny, but still.
Oh, that's true. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I forgot the age we're in. We got to be very careful.
Yeah, come on.
Don't worry. I'm not going to do it.
In 98 and 2002, you get away with saying something like that. Now we're going to have a post-show meeting now with AB.
Yeah, great. The Mets are winning right now in game 1 of this doubleheader 4-2. So,
great. That's amazing. And then
it's just a tease, man. That's all it is.
Yes, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I had some interesting baseball bets too not that I'm questioning, and I want to see whether or not you'd approve of them. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But
the 9.
What?
The 9.
Okay, well, used to hearing that.
Delete. I know you love that one.
It's so funny. Oh, delete that. I'm gonna.
Yes, post-show meeting canceled. Good.
Okay. Wow. Very lucky. Must be because of the holidays. Philly Mac talking about losing Javonte Williams. He's looking to add one of these interesting running backs. Mike Boone, part of it. Latavius Murray Burkhead is part of it. Moss, Hilliard, Pacheco. I only have the New England running backs, Reynolds and James Cook on the roster. Wow.
Yeah, I think there you go, Boone. I am intrigued by Pacheco. I think he has looked pretty good. I think you could see him pass McKinnon. I know CEH has been scoring, but I like what I've seen from Pacheco. I've been holding him in deeper formats, but he's not startable right now. So of those, you're gonna pick up Boone because you could start him now. Whereas the other guys, you can't start Moss, can't start Hilliard, can't start Murray yet. I don't think you can start Burkhead. It's a lot of Dameon Pierce. I would pick up Boone. I think he's the most startable of that group at this moment.
Yes, and Philly Mac, yes, keep intact those New England running backs. That's about all you have right now.
And they play Detroit this week, so my goodness, you might get even with if they don't have Hoyer or the third string guy, they might be able to run all over Detroit. You might see 2 huge games from Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson.
This might be a little too far-fetched and we don't know the quarterback situation, but being Detroit can't stop anyone. Does someone, if Jonnu Smith, let's say, is out, does someone like a Hunter Henry all of a sudden for DFS, like a low DFS option for GPPs come into play?
I haven't thought that far ahead, but my initial instinct is no.
Yeah, he's getting boxed out by Jonnu Smith when healthy.
I mean, I guess the receivers you could probably look at Devontae Parker if Jacoby Meyer's still out. I mean, Detroit is just getting shredded by everyone. So that is something to take a look at later in the week.
Everyone's looking like an all-star when it comes to the Detroit Lions and playing them. And look at our top fantasy scoring quarterbacks from week 4, Geno Smith and Jared Goff. Never thought we'd live in a world, Roan, where those two would be at the top of a weekly leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, I know every year people are like, oh, yeah, it's a crazy year. We've never seen this before. To me, this has been one of the most wild starts ever. Like I said, I usually don't have really bad teams. I have a couple of teams that I'm just like, really? I'm not used to this, man. So like I said, I won't give up and maybe it turns around. But, I got caught, with some bad players that are not startable. Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, Allen Robinson. It sucks, man, because you can't even play those guys now. DJ Moore. Not in a lot. I think DJ Moore I have in my home league. That might be only it, but
we drafted DJ Moore before Lamar Jackson. Let that sink in.
Well, there's a lot of bad players that were drafted before Lamar Jackson. I mean, you could line them up. So many receivers. I mean, and running backs too. So, and that's going to be interesting to see. Does that change? Now, only 4 weeks in the books. Still a long way to go, and maybe some of these players start to rebound. But it is going to be interesting to watch next season if we do see that shift where people go, you know what? These running quarterbacks are more reliable. I'm going to take them earlier.
Just these low totals I continue to look at from this good luck this week, especially.
And unders have been hitting. I didn't see what the final tally was for. I know at one point it was 30 and 18 to the under. So that's why you're seeing these totals go lower because the unders are hitting so much. Under hit last night pretty easily.
Well, what about this one here? I mean, I'm looking at one spread, the London game, Giants and the Packers. We saw the Patriots be able to cover, and what about the Giants? 8-point dogs against the Packers. We know that. I mean, we've crapped on the Giants a little bit long term. I mean, 3-1 right now, but not going to be that way for a while. Do you think that they have a shot at covering this, though?
I mean, a lot's good because that line can move higher if Daniel Jones doesn't play. So that's my biggest concern. Why I think it's actually a good spot to tease down now. If you like doing teasing, tease that down to -2, -2.5 Green Bay. Because that line could move to 9 or 10 if Daniel Jones doesn't play. And remember, too, like even if Daniel Jones does play, he's got a bad ankle. And part of his game is running. So, I think I just see this as a spot where the Packers really smoke them. Again, the Giants have played a very easy schedule, 3 games at home. And I know Green Bay didn't look great last week against New England, but I think that's more Bill Belichick with a good game plan and maybe Green Bay taking them a little lightly or something. But I really think Green Bay will handle business this week. And it's more about the Giants just being not bad, but they're not a good football team. Let's put it that way. And they've taken advantage of the schedule. You give them credit. You got to go out there and win the games. But again, don't think, oh, they're 3-1. They're really good. I mean, they're not. And you're going to start to see some losses along the way.
Really, the total that sticks out for me that could go over is maybe surprisingly, not surprisingly, Houston-Jacksonville, 44.5.
Yeah, a lot's going to depend on what the Texans do against Jacksonville's defense, because I think we do expect Jacksonville to put up points, to run the football well. Do we finally get a big Travis Etienne game? I mean, that's another guy. That's another guy that I'm very heavily invested in that's absolutely crushed me. So, I got a lot of guys that are just not performing. And
you and I were very split on that, although I have nothing to really be happy about after seeing what James Robinson didn't do.
I still am stunned by James Robinson. And again, he's kind of had two big runs that have really made his numbers seem a little bit better than they are. And Etienne, every time I watch him, is explosive, but the game script just hasn't gone according to plan. And then even last week, they were playing from behind and he still didn't do much. That was stunning too, because I was looking at his receiving prop last week. Well, I probably should have put it in the prop war since they all sucked anyway. It would have fit right in. But yeah, I mean, I'm stunned with Etienne and as good as Robinson has been. So, sometimes you get things wrong, man. And unfortunately, I have a couple
I changed the coach speak with that. Because Peterson was saying this all summer long, that if Robinson was declared healthy, able to run without pain, that he was going to be featured. And look, you can't always chase that.
No, you can't. I mean, the Cowboys said they were going to use Tony Pollard in the slot on the lot. That's not happening, man. So these coaches say things and, but I guess with the Robinson one, he was not lying.
Coach, yeah, it was like a new situation there. And that's what made me a little bit more confident in that. The big question was whether or not by week 1, James Robinson, we know off the IR, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's fully healthy. He could just be chilling out there in practice for weeks on end. But as long as I was getting that feeling that he was going to be able to play week 1 without any limitations, I had a feeling that he was going to be more involved. And that was one where I chased it, thought about the strategy behind it, new coach, players from old regimes. I mean, maybe that Robinson does have something that he could get when it comes to a featured role. And he did, although this past weekend, yikes. Let's talk a little bit of baseball here. Adam Ronis on fantasyalarm.com put up some prize picks plays. Was also looking at some props as well. Only a couple of days left in the MLB regular season. Got to make it count before those playoffs begin. This is the playbook powered by fantasyalarm.com here on Bettor Sports Network.
Bettor Sports Network. It's sports talk done better. Talk about your picks, your fantasy teams, and your sports collectibles on Bettor Sports Network.
By the way, if you are a commissioner out there, if someone does not pay, that's on you at the end of the day. It sucks. That's why you have to get the money early, because if they don't pay, it's on you. You don't change the prize. A winner shouldn't be impacted because unfortunately you messed up as commissioner. And I've been caught with this before. I've made this mistake. It sucks, and I had to go out of pocket for it. You learn that maybe some of your friends should not be in that league. But Roan, we see it all the time with commissioner issues, and I can't stress it enough that when it comes down to league payment, it's on the commissioner if they don't have everybody's entry fee and someone decides to ghost them.
Yeah, I had to collect 36 entry fees this year. All of them were collected except one. And it was one of my friends who said he was going to pay the second. I forgot to remind him. He might even be listening, but I know he's going to pay. If not, I know where he lives. But nah, he'll pay. But yeah, I mean,
big brother Adam Ronis over here.
And even the guy that I've talked about before that usually always pays me at the end, he actually paid on time this time. He usually is like, I'll pay you on Friday, and then it doesn't come, and then it's 4 months later. And he always winds up paying. That's why I don't really get upset. But you've seen my emails, man. I don't play around. Like, this is the date. This is the date. You get it in by then. And I always, too, I'm like, the draft order will be determined when everyone pays. Right. So don't hit me up about the draft order. Once everyone pays, then the draft order will be done. And anyone who's been in this league, now Festy can't attest to this because he's never won money in my league, but the people who do win, they get it right away. Usually the next day or two. Just make sure the scoring, especially with football, no scoring changes, as long as it's not like a point victory, half a point, and then they'll get the money right away.
What about 2 points?
Yeah, wait it out just in case something crazy happens. I guess I don't wait till Thursday when the official scoring happens.
Yeah, man. A championship that I was in years ago got reversed, and I ended up winning on a Thursday stat correction.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. You hope it doesn't come down to that. If you're on the better end of that, it's great. But man, imagine thinking you won, you got the money, and then it changes. That's tough.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
The 3-2 pitch. Swinging a fly ball. Shallow center field. Coming on his march. Still coming on. Makes the catch. The ball game is over. The drought is over after 11 seasons. The Philadelphia Phillies are going back to the postseason. They'll represent the National League as a wild card representative. And they celebrate behind the mound, and this is a long time coming.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
NBC Sports Philadelphia on the call. They're the Phillies. They're going to have their crack at it here in the National League. And before we talk about not only what's going on in games right now for those that are live, but we'll also talk about some bets for the games that are yet to start. But Roan, once again, I love my bobbleheads here, but just in case, this John Franco bobblehead, really cool, man. Really cool.
Why don't you want it?
Well, it's not that I don't want it. It's like you offered Scherzer for it. And to me, by the time I really became a Mets fan, John Franco was just sitting on the bench. It was the great Armando Benitez closing at the time. Yeah, I know how enjoyable that is. But John Franco was like that 90s Mets pitcher that I just didn't really get to fully enjoy until he was just a cheerleader on the bench the final couple of years.
I got to interview him in person.
How was it?
That was good. He actually he was doing something with Good Humor ice cream. So he brought a case of ice cream to the studio. Like, wow. What am I going to do? Take this on the subway home? I mean, come on. So I think Scott Engel ate half of it at the studio.
He ate half of one ice cream or half of the case?
No, half the case.
Yes. But this is I like this bobblehead though. Nice little action shot right there. Getting ready to throw. I don't know what pitch he's thinking about throwing, but it's, again, up for trade for those out there that want to make a trade. And Roan, this does not include the Gary Cohen bobblehead that you got me, that you've already gifted to me, essentially.
Yeah, it's sitting in a box. It's still up for sale. So
no, dude.
You better hope that I ship it to you before someone buys it.
I know. I asked, and I was like, I thought you were thinking like I was going to ask you today. Can you ship it today? No, but I'm very excited to unite Gary, Keith, and Ron when I get them. Whenever our buddy Ani Streeter decides to come back to the Maryland area, then I'll be able to get that. My other buddy who got me the Keith Hernandez bobblehead of the trio, he'll be down in the next couple of weeks. So that'll be cool, and I'll take a picture because this has been a long build, but it takes a village to get a nice bobblehead set and not pay $500 for it. So for those out there that have good condition sports broadcaster bobbleheads, hey, I got a good bartering chip right here. Johnny Franco. Let's go. Let's make a trade, Road.
Yeah, they're lining up in your DMs now because they really want the John Franco bobblehead.
Yes, exactly. I could tell by the excitement in your voice that it's a very appealing piece there.
I don't know. I've never been that enamored with them. Like, I get them, so I just put them there for the background. I like the
broadcaster ones though, because and I'll show you more of my collection out there, but some of them are behind the booths and some of them even have voice boxes in them too. So you hear famous calls. Like I got Jack Buck. You've heard the Jack Buck one. He's got 2 famous calls. Bob Uecker, 5 different famous calls in Brewers history. Dick Vitale, a couple of calls there. It's awesome, baby. That's what makes bobbleheads more fun.
Is your aspiration that one day there's a bobblehead created of you? Is that what you're hoping for?
I actually have one that was given to me as a gift But you would not be able to, it's not me as a broadcaster. It's just me as a New York fan. But there's way too much hair on top of the head of the bobblehead. You would not think it's me. You would think it's someone like Matt Vasgersian or something like that.
Okay. I mean, well, I did get a plaque with my picture on it. You guys thought like, oh, it's some small thing, and it's like this big plaque with my picture. So you never know. You never know.
Adam Rodas. By the way, coming up next, Rodas' former co-host, Dr. Roto.
Which one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, this time, Dr. Roto. You've worked with a lot of people. On Call with Dr. Roto coming up next, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and then the replay of Front Yard Fantasy, 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern with JL, John Luke, and Simon on the call from the morning show there. Let's talk a little bit of baseball, Rome, because right now, as it's looking, the Braves actually had runners on the corners in the first inning against the Marlins. The Marlins ended up getting out of it. With the Mets bottom 7, they got a runner on, up 4-2. They'll be playing another game. The Braves lost last night. So
you know what's going to happen, right? The Braves
are going to be tied, and then tomorrow the Mets lose.
And then tomorrow the hearts will be broken. Like we can see how this script goes already.
Oh, it's the same song, different dance, man. It happens like this all the time. But you know what?
But I will be attending a game this week, and I do have tickets, assuming that they're the wild card. So, which they probably will be.
Yeah, they very much will be. What are some of your prize picks plays? Maybe even give us one that you like going into tonight's action for MLB.
Lucas Giolito over 1.5 walks going up against the Twins. You know, he's had a really disappointing season. Some people thought he could be a Cy Young contender, and ERA of 5 on the season. His whip is like 1.47. He just faced the Twins on Thursday, walked 3, and he's gone over the 1.5 walks in 6 of his last 7 games. And especially early in games, he tends to struggle. So I don't think you have to worry about a pitch count or him getting pulled early, and that's the issue you have to worry about these last 2 days. They're out of it. He's thrown 90-plus pitches in his last 5 starts, so I don't think they're going to limit him. Lucas Giolito over 1.5 walks.
Did Urias get scratched or something like that? Because I was seeing his props before, and now I'm seeing his props off the books because I saw, and it was not the most appealing prop, but still piqued my interest just a little bit. And that was Urias over 5.5 strikeouts at plus 125. Now, he's been getting a lot of 5s here, but going into this matchup here, the Rockies have actually been striking out a decent amount over the last couple of weeks. So I thought that maybe with it being plus money, especially hanging around that 5 area, I believe in a previous matchup, the last time he went over and hit 7 against them. But now I'm not seeing it on DraftKings anymore. And it was there. The over at 5.5 for him for strikeouts was at plus 125.
Yeah, that's why I don't mess with it because the Dodgers have nothing to play for. They've clinched everything. So I don't want to mess with those because now I see the Giants changed pitchers. Alex Cobb's going tonight. It was supposed to be Rodon. I don't really like going too heavily right now because then you got teams not putting a full lineup out there. So I think you have to be very careful with some of these prop bets right now in baseball for today and tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow's the last day of the regular season because, they might pull guys early. So be very careful with that.
What about Lorenzen over 4.5 strikeouts? Didn't he do this a week ago where he struck out 8 Athletics players?
I mean, it's a good matchup, but, and he shouldn't be limited. I don't think he will be. I think they'll let him go.
He's Adam Rodas. I'm Justin Fensterman. We thank our producers in the booth, the resource, AB Adam Bernard, and the People's Board Up, Jared Moore. Coming up next, Dr. Roto for On Call, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and then the replay of Front Yard Fantasy. Good luck. Let's win tonight.